Welcome back to the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Safety Systems. They can get you the best security system available, from equipment, cameras, and monitoring to contracts, much better than the national companies. Safety Systems is the team to call. Reach out to VFL J.J. Surlis this week. Okay, I'm stealing this straight from The Athletic. Andy Staples, college football writer, does a mailbag column. Somebody a couple of years ago sent him a question. It's great. I love it. I'm going to steal that. The question was, of the programs out there, if you gave everybody a magic wand that they could wave and it would guarantee their team won one national championship in the next 20 years, no more, no less, guarantee you get one national championship, would you wave it? And then which schools should not wave it? Because they're in such a good position that you could win more than one. So roll the dice. You may not win one, but you could win more than one. He answered it, and there were like 5 or 6 schools, the ones you would think of that he thought should roll the dice, that were up there. Now it's a 12-team playoff world. It's a little different. I'm asking you guys specifically about Tennessee. I'll start with you, Justin. If you're Tennessee and I gave them a magic wand, you could wave it, and you got one national championship guaranteed in the next 20 years. That's it. Or are they so good right now with Heupel and a 12-team playoff and the SEC that you would say, nah, take your chances. Roll the dice, take your chances, see if you can win more than one. Where are you?
I don't know if I'm in the minority or the majority on this, but I would wave that wand until my arm fell off. because of the numbers a few shows back that we've looked at with the gaps between when you've won your national titles and the few teams that have won multiples. I would wave it right now. I mean, you think about 1998, kind of bought Philip Fulmer exactly 10 more years where he had to play with. I would do it if I were in Tennessee.
And in 1998, everyone thought, oh, we're going to win so many more of these because we're at the top of the world, and then it doesn't take long for that to change. All right, David Ubben.
You have to waive it because I think it comes down to recruiting. You have to have, if you're going to sit there and say we can compete for multiple national championships, okay, you got to have a top 5 roster. That's extremely hard to do because you can't just sit and say, hey, we got to dominate Tennessee. You got to go into Georgia and beat Georgia for kids in Atlanta. You got to go to Florida, beat all the Florida schools for all the kids in Florida, all this stuff, South Carolina, all that. Clemson's there. But in the 12-team playoff, you have to have a roster. It's hard. It's going to be harder than ever to win a national championship because you got to get into the playoff and then beat
I agree.
3 elite teams.
Everybody thinks it's going to be easier.
No,
it's going to be harder.
Easier to make the playoff extreme because you got to win 3 games against probably elite teams. In the BCS era, you could get lucky with your schedule and maybe trip and fall into the national championship game, and then you got 1 game and who knows. Yeah. But you got to win 3 games against an Ohio State, against a USC, against a
perhaps
Georgia,
one
Bama.
on the road if you're.
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Good luck. That's going to be extremely hard. So waive it until you've got a rotator cuff surgery that needs to be happening.
Totally disagree with what David said, that you have to waive it. No, I'm waiving it. Oh. I just don't think you have to waive it. Oh. But I agree, too. I mean, you look at 51 to 98, 98 to now. I mean, your gaps in there are huge, and I don't count the Farfignugan championship they won back in
Litkenhouse
66,
and all that.
Whatever. I think you go ahead and waive it. Because to have one more, though, if you win another one sometime in the next 20 years, that, I think, keeps you right there established as one of the best. We looked the other day at the AP teams that have won AP championships. The fact you've won 2 puts you in elite company.
Yeah.
You win another one, you're just right there below the Alabamas and all that. So, yes, waive it.
Yeah, I think ultimately.
But you don't have to.
What a bunch of cowards! What a bunch of cowards!
The winds of change have not blown as dramatically against Tennessee as they have at a place like Nebraska, but I do think Nebraska and Tennessee are really good comparisons because
Minnesota.
The things that gave you an advantage in the 70s and 80s and 90s have evaporated for you, and so it's going to be an uphill battle to get to that point. It's not saying you can't. But the odds are definitely against it, so you take one.
Well, and to your point earlier, David, you mentioned going to Georgia to beat kids there, in Atlanta, going to Florida. If there's a prospect on Mars, Alabama and Georgia are going to be recruiting this kid on Mars. Right. You're going to have to, and they're on your schedule, as you guys mentioned a segment ago, every year.
Well, and the NIL was considered, oh, man, that's going to push us up to where we compete. Well, Georgia and Alabama have a little NIL money, too. So you've got Georgia, Alabama, and money. So I think it might have improved you a little bit over some schools that you were even with or maybe slightly behind, but I don't think it's helped improve you against that upper crust Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, those schools.
All right, I want to see. I want to see if Ryan and Chuck are willing to roll the dice here. We'll see what they say, and we'll also tell you if Andy Staples put the Vols on his list. When we come back, we'll bring those guys in, and we'll continue this discussion. We got some breaking news coming up a little later in the show, so stick with us. Come on back on the Sports Source.